Welcome back to G'day Bitcoin, ladies and gentlemen. Join us today on this Friday chat. We have Zane and we have Finn. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. How are you?
Really good, Sean. Thanks for the invite. It was quite an impromptu one, the Savo, but I'm glad I'm here, mate, with you.
Yeah, I'm glad you are too. I was on X earlier, sort of between doing a bit of video editing and stuff for our company, really related to Bitcoin, and I just needed a bit of a brain break. So I jumped on there and I just saw how fearful so many people are at the moment. Just for a little bit of context, I want to bring my screen up, or even if I just show people on the background, we're at 110,000. We've just come back to 110,000. About an hour ago when I created the stream, we were sitting more so at like 108,000. So it's come back pretty quickly, maybe 109,000. But what I'll do is share my screen. I've just got a couple of things for a little bit of perspective for anyone that's maybe just a little bit worried. You're feeling a little bit of fear that we're just under the power law at the moment. We'll cover all of this stuff, but bit of context. The market cap is still well and truly over $2 trillion. We're at 2.18 trillion. Total supply 19.942, Bitcoin in circulation out of a total of 21 million. Total treasury holdings, it continues to keep going up. So the people that understand are stacking. But gentlemen, I'd like both your thoughts on this. Sean, Finn, just before you hopped on. Since the start of the year, January 22nd, I think, was the first time that we hit about 107,000, 106 there on the chart. So we've been sideways for nearly one whole year, which is pretty insane. You know, Uptober, Pumptober, whatever anyone wants to call it. So many people are so disappointed that, I don't know, we're not at 150, 200, $250,000. What are your thoughts with where we are? And just, I guess, before you answer that, one more thing for a little bit of context for everyone is the fear and greed index. It's in fear at 29 on 29, and we've been fear for the last week, but like we're still over $100,000. It's 110,000. So what are your mental models to navigate this extremely bearish vibe? You know, the sky is falling at the moment.
I get it.
Go ahead there.
Yeah. I get it. For when I first got into my Bitcoin journey, I would be wanting the price to pump. But for me now, the people that are fearful of this kind of price action just haven't done enough research, because if they had, they'd be hoping for it to go down to get a discount, because they understand the fundamentals of what Bitcoin is. And if they understand the fundamentals, you want as many Satoshis as possible. You don't want the price as high as possible.
Amen. Zane.
That's a great wrap up, Finn. I agree. Like, you know, anybody who's sort of been around my community or my coaching knows that we pay very little attention to the day-to-day price movements, right? Because we're not here for next month, next year, or the year after that. What we're here for is to change our future, right? And that of our family and hopefully our kids as well. And the way we do that is by realizing that, you know, Bitcoin is it's a protocol that's imposing itself on the debt-based falling and failing monetary system. And when you start looking at it like that, you really don't care what the price is today, tomorrow, the next day. I mean, I often tell the story that, you know, when I first started allocating to Bitcoin, you know, the first time I deployed capital, about 2 weeks after that, price dropped by about 25%. But because I'd done the work on Bitcoin, I understood what this asset was to a certain degree. I mean, I never stopped learning, but I just saw that as an opportunity to buy more, you know, Bitcoin on sale. So for me, when I look at all this stuff, you know, Sean, to me, it's just noise. It's just, we all know where Bitcoin's going. We just got to zoom out. We've got to look at a Bitcoin price chart since January 2009, and it looks like that, right? Now,
Let's
obviously,
bring it up.
Yeah, let's do that.
So this is 2016. here, if we go all the way back as far as this chart, 2013, $135. I remember that. I remember that, and I didn't buy.
Yeah, well, either did I. And I was told the same thing, mate. You got to look at this Bitcoin thing. I had a friend of mine who was driving me crazy, and I had no idea what it was, and I just dismissed it, didn't think I needed it. But, it's no good looking backwards. We have to realize, like, when we go and buy a house, right, and we know that property prices right now are maxing out, but there's still people buying houses. Yeah. They're not looking at a house that today is $2 million that in 1994 they could have bought for 200. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I don't know why it is with Bitcoin, everybody gets so hung up like on the day-to-day price movements. You don't do that when you're looking at a house. So I just think that there's this misunderstanding of what Bitcoin is. And the sooner that people really take a step back and realize that this is a system that is repricing the entire legacy system, and they come from it from that mentality, I just think it's a far more productive mindset to have around it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think that's a really good way, or a great mental model, is to be able to compare it to property. Like, we're looking at property at the moment, and like our purchasing power is greater than it's ever been. And you look at what you can get for such an extraordinary amount, and you're like, man, if only we had bought this property 4 years ago or whatever, it'd be nearly half the price on what it is. And you look at it and you're like, okay, like, still want a house to live. And yes, it's not an investment. It's something for lifestyle. And whether we go ahead with it or not, who knows? But we don't question that the house is the most expensive that it's ever been. And like, yes, it could fluctuate day to day or whatever, but we just know that over time, or even if it doesn't continue to go up, even if it fell down, whatever, that's fine. One house is still one house, is one Bitcoin's one Bitcoin. You just can't make any more Bitcoin like you can do with houses. Now, back to Finn's point, like, for people that are really fearful, they haven't put in the proof of work. Finn, you're echoing my words. I put out a video earlier on X saying, if you're fearful now, that's okay. I get it. I understand. All it signifies is that you don't have a complete understanding, and that's okay. Like, that's great. That's a good realization to know. So I said there's 3 things that you could do over the next couple of days to catch up and get a great understanding. Number 1, watch What Is the Problem by Joe Bryan. Number 2, read A Big Print by Lawrence Lepard. Number 3, follow that up with Parallel by Brian D. Mint. I really think it's just a education or a knowledge gap. Do either of you gentlemen see it any other way? With people being fearful and having their emotions run. I understand, like, it's money, it's life savings people are dealing with. But at the end of the day, if the Bitcoin's in self-custody, if people have reached out to the Bitcoin way and they've gotten the mentorship, or they've gone off and they've learned it themselves, they've got that Bitcoin in self-custody. That's theirs. That's not going to change. One Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. But the volatility and the fiat price can shake people out. Do you see it in any other way apart from knowledge, study, proof of work?
Finn, what would you say,
Finn?
It
all comes down to knowledge at the end of the day, but I think there's still a lot of people that are in Bitcoin for a quick trade, and yeah, you probably would be scared or concerned if that's the reason coming in, but then that all wraps back around to you've not done the proof of work, because if you had, you would not be in Bitcoin for a quick trade. You'd be buying as much, and you'd be happy for cheap sats, to get more sats for your dollar.
Yep. So Zane, on that, I want to throw a question over to you. So Bitcoin's at 110,000. The high was 124 or 126, depending on what exchange you're looking at it, but roughly around there. So let's say 125, right bang in the middle. If Bitcoin dropped down to $78,000 or say 58K, we were there for a very long time, what would you be talking to your community? How would you be thinking, handling it yourself? What actions would you be taking? Would you try to go out and get more, or would you go into preservation mode to be able to protect what you have? How would you approach if we had such a what would seem to someone new as a dramatic dip, but if we look at any other cycle, would just be like an average day within Bitcoin, you know, if we had like a 36% drawdown, for example.
Yeah, look, if you had asked me that question 5 years ago, Sean, I would have probably said, look, that'd be a cause for concern, right? But given where we are now and the amount of clarity that we have as to Bitcoin's future and a lot of things that have taken place just in the last, 18 months, 2 years, you know, the SEC granting the ETF. So now that Wall Street can now recommend Bitcoin to their clients, even though it's not real Bitcoin, as we know, you know, the strategic Bitcoin reserve, you know, all the treasury stuff, all of this stuff that's happened in the last, 2 years has given us enormous clarity. Okay. Yeah. And so I always say that on a risk adjusted basis, okay, if you believe that Bitcoin's not going to zero, which it's not, I mean, I'm absolutely convicted of that, then it's going to 1 million, then it's going to 2, 5, 10. That's where it's going. And so really the only battle we've got to overcome is our mindset, okay, and our education and our conviction and our understanding of what this asset is. And, I'm not the only one who says this. I mean, there are many, great Bitcoin educators out there who have been here for 1, 2, 3 cycles, who know that this journey as a Bitcoiner, it can wear you out. It can be disconcerting if you have price dips and your stack is down 20, 30%, but it's nothing that a cycle won't solve, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're here for 4 years or more and you're playing that long game, which Bitcoin teaches you in a world that is addicted to instant gratification, right? So we have a gambling mentality as a society. We feel like we need to have a win today, otherwise it's not hanging out there for. And so it's a very different world we live in now, but this is the game, right? The game is discipline. The game is future focus. The game is getting back to a place where you can now peacefully plan for your future, knowing that the value of your purchasing power, even though it might take a dip, right, tomorrow, the next day, the month after that, the year after that, we know Bitcoin runs in 4-year cycles. Whether or not that continues to be the case, it could be argued. But, I just keep really, my biggest thing, and this is why, and I know that my Success Circle members, where we started on our whole journey was all about mindset, right? And when you're armed with the right mindset and you have a really clear understanding of the fundamentals of Bitcoin, how the 4-year cycles work, playing the long game, not utilizing Bitcoin as a trading asset, but utilizing it as a decentralized wealth position, right? Totally different things. Then yes, if you get a dip down to 75K, which I think is what you asked, in my world, that's back up the truck, right? But for somebody who's got in at 110, okay, they might be having a few heart flutters and they might be, their spouse might be threatening to kick them out of the house or whatever. But it's just going to come back to, like you keep saying, Sean, reading the books or eating the bugs, right? Doing the work on Bitcoin and so yeah, I mean that's my take on it. But I understand. I'm not here to say that it's not difficult, but anything in life that's transformative, that has the ability to change your life, it's a journey, right? It's going to have its ups and downs, and we've got to keep remembering. This is the last point I'll make. We've got to keep remembering that Bitcoin is an adolescent. It's 16 years old, for God's sake, right? We're less than 5%. We're less than 5% adoption globally. Okay, we've all heard the stories about Amazon and how many 30, 40, 50, 60% dips Amazon had before it became what it became. And all of those early people who were shaken out of it and all of that. they weren't around to create generational wealth. But, those of us who are of my vintage who missed the .com boom, right, we're not going to fuck this one up, okay? We know where this is going, and it's just a matter of playing the long game.
Yeah, and I want to get into playing the long game, and I want to get into just bringing up your success circle. I think that's very powerful, what you're doing, sort of invite only, but we'll talk about that. But before we do, Finn, you're the youngest out of all of us. So I'd like to know how you approach it from an emotional point of view. Obviously, you've been stacking for a while. You've definitely put in the proof of work. You understand it. You've read the books. You've interviewed people. You've got a podcast. Both you gentlemen, if in the comments section, if you can just put your YouTube channels for everyone there, I'll bring them up on screen. Do you get shaken out at all, Finn? Like, do you have that flutter in your heart, or because you've like you had the football career and stuff, and then you've done a lot in your mindset and stuff, you just approach it with ease? And I guess what I'm trying to get at is, can you specifically talk to Gen Z if you've got any tips for people? And then I'd like to do the same for Zane for the older generation as well, because I just think there could be different ways to approach things, different life experiences, circumstances, perspectives.
Yeah, I went pretty hard in Bitcoin as soon as I had some level of understanding from a guy I trusted. But because of where I was, I also went with the mentality of, if this is not going to work, then I've got time to just rebuild if what I just invested went to zero, let's say, just to get me started. Fast forward to now, my credit score's been red, like horrific, because of 3 years ago when I was changing rental and there was a mess up with the direct deposit. It wasn't even me, but I've never bothered fixing it because I've never intended since that period to be buying a house or needing a mortgage or anything like that. I've actually recently gone to fix it and speak to the credit score people and stuff, because if we do see Bitcoin back at 50, 60, 70,000, I would be trying to find any fiat possible to buy Bitcoin with and short the dollar or short the pound or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, my perspective on it's changed heaps as time's gone on, but fundamentally shorting fiat and long Bitcoin is the path for my generation, I believe. And you don't need to get into debt, obviously, but for my generation, they're getting into debt anyway by getting a mortgage. So they'd be better off getting a mortgage and putting it into Bitcoin if they want to make some big impact in their life, not financial advice.
No, I was going to say exactly that before I threw over to Zane. It's not financial advice, and ladies and gentlemen, it's probably not the smartest thing for you to do to go out and leverage against Bitcoin. If you really understand it's your money, your choice, but truly understand what you're doing. Bitcoin's returning, 45, 50% compounded annual growth rate per year, year in, year out. So you don't really need to leverage up to the hilt to be able to have life-changing money. For me, I think it's just buy, stack, and chill. Like week in, week out, or for me, every 2 weeks for the last 5.5 years, been Bitcoin for 6 years. But consistently, every 2 weeks for the last 5.5 years is just that dollar cost averaging, and without leverage or anything, that's been life-changing. And yes, as the Bitcoin price gets more and more expensive, somebody last cycle, $10 a day, managed to get to 1 Bitcoin. It's probably not going to happen, but you may get to 0.2 Bitcoin or 0.1 Bitcoin, which will be the equivalent in today's dollars. So you don't need to go right out on the risk curve, but being like, oh, Bitcoin's too risky and not putting in the time, to read the books. I think that's really where the risk lies. Zane, if you can bring up, like your success circle and stuff and this private group that you have, I guess, what is it? What's the intention? And then you've alluded to some of the conversations, but before we were saying backstage, you're like, I'm not even aware of the price. Like, I don't know what it is. It's not what we talk about. So what's going on? Because they're all Bitcoiners there, or they're people paying attention to Bitcoin. What are you guys doing, and why?
Yeah, well, I think the motivation for people getting involved in something like my community or others that are out there, Sean, is because people know that fundamentally things aren't right, in the world. Okay, geopolitically, financially, people know that things are changing. They can see the threat of more centralized control and potential central bank digital currencies, people having trouble accessing their money in the bank, growing wealth gap, price of real estate. And even if people, and this is kind of the long-winded way of answering your question, mate, but fundamentally the reason why people are coming to Bitcoin now, right, is because they know that things aren't right. So Bitcoin is, as we always say, it's like the orange pill. But in order to take the orange pill, you first got to understand, or take the red pill, which is understanding the problem, because it's very difficult. And having, I think up around 200 one-on-one coaching calls with people now in the last 9 months, what it is that people struggle with the most is just clarity around what this asset is. And this is the reason why people come and go. It's the reason why really smart people have bought into Bitcoin and then sold it only to regret it, and only to be sitting there 2, 3, 4 years later and saying to himself, what was the point of that? I would have been better off just, as your mantra is, Sean, just buying, stacking and chilling. But instead they've tried to either time the market, tried to outsmart Bitcoin, didn't really consider the fact that they'd have a tax bill, right, when they sold their Bitcoin. And now they want to buy it all back. They had 2, 3, 4 Bitcoin 3 years ago. Now they can only afford one. This kind of stuff is, and I'm not saying, I'm talking about smart people, right? People who have been very successful in their career and businesses and stuff, and they make this mistake, which fundamentally just comes down to a lack of time in the chair, a lack of proof of work, a lack of time spent understanding of what Bitcoin is. And I think even today, I would venture to say, and I don't know what the exact stats are, but if we say that less than 5% of the population globally of 8 billion people has any exposure to Bitcoin, mate, I would say that 80% plus of those people don't even understand the value of the asset that they're holding.
Yeah.
Right? They don't understand, self-custody to the nth degree. They don't understand running your own node, right? All of these other things that we talk about at a deep level inside our community, it's all about realizing that Bitcoin is not just number go up. I mean, obviously that's why we all come here in the beginning, but those who take the time to educate themselves quickly realize that that's just part A. Part B for me is even more exciting, and that is the ability for us to actually protect and preserve our wealth in a decentralized monetary system that nobody can stuff with.
Yeah.
Right. And so we spend as much time talking about number go up as we do about the ability to become self-sovereign with our money against the backdrop of a system that is tightening the screws. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's why people are here, mate. That's why, and they're my vintage, right? For the most part, I'm saying there's a few that are in their 40s, but for the most part, the average age group of people inside my community is probably, early to mid 50s. Because we are the ones that are now proactively forward thinking about retirement. Okay. And we are the ones that are saying to ourselves, particularly if you're in my situation, you've got 3 kids in their 20s, right? And you start thinking not just about you and the rest of your life, but you're also thinking about, well, how is it that you can make sure that they're okay as well? Okay. Because, you know, people in Finn's age bracket, and the age bracket, you know, my kid's probably a little bit younger than Finn, but the point is that the prospect of kids now being able to save for a deposit for a home, create stability in their life, get married, have a couple of kids, dad goes to work, mum, you know, raises the kids, and not to be sexist or anything like that, but just there was a time where life was a lot less stressful. People could survive on one income, right? Now it takes 2 plus supplementary income plus maybe, you know, a couple of kids staying at home into their 30s who are also contributing to the mortgage. So yeah, it's just it's a different world now, mate. And I think fundamentally that's the reason why people are attracted to not just Bitcoin education and Bitcoin as an asset, but also the community aspect. Okay, because so many people struggle to do Bitcoin on their own, you know, because their spouse is not on board, or and you know, I'm not sure about you, Finn, but I've heard you tell the story, Sean, about, you know, it's taken a while for your wife to really understand this. And it's
way too long.
It's been the same in my situation, you know, and that's okay, right? But that is very common, right? That not both people are on the same page, and in our friendship circles and our, you know, people we hang out with, and it's a real issue, because if you're talking to your best mate at the pub and he thinks you're an idiot because you're trying to orange pill him, or you're talking about this Bitcoin thing and you won't shut up about it, like, because what we do, you know, there comes a point where you either just forget about it, you talk about the footy or going to the beach or whatever instead, or you decide, well, maybe we're not meant to be friends anymore because you're just on so totally different paths. I mean, I don't know, but it's but that sense of community, mate, is huge. I really believe that as we move forward into this circular economy and Bitcoin gets more and more adoption, I just think more and more people are going to want to gravitate to people who are on the same journey.
Yeah. And with that, like this community that you're running, it's private, it's invite only. If people are interested, what's the easiest way for them to get in contact with you?
Look, I would say 95% of the people who are in my community, Sean, they've done a private call with me. So they know already, you know, we've got some form of connection in terms of an understanding. I've got an understanding of their personal journey, where they're at, what their goals are. I would encourage people to have a session with me, send me an email, send me a message on X, anything like that, just to let me know their story. We can hook up a call. Probably that's the best place to start, rather than to just jump into the group. You know, we fundamentally, with the group, the centerpiece to it is a 6-module training, okay, which we conducted live over 6 straight weeks. Basically 2 hours of content per module times 6 is 12 hours of content. The first 3 sessions I co-hosted with Bisha from Stormrake, who's one of the most knowledgeable guys in Bitcoin, and runs one of Australia's fastest growing digital asset brokerages. And so we co-hosted that together for the first 3 modules, and then the second 3 modules was really all about securing your Bitcoin. So the first 3 was about fundamentals, cycles, planning, strategy around how to build a stack, different methods, lump sum, DCA, all those kinds of things, navigating banks, understanding the difference between exchanges and brokerages. And then the second 3 modules was all about securing your Bitcoin, right? Stuff that the Bitcoin way does, okay? And so I had Tony Yazbek co-hosted that with me.
What a treat.
That was the back 3. So look, anybody who's had access to that, and the feedback speaks for itself, Sean. You know, the people to a person who participated in those live sessions that are now recorded inside our portal. So anybody who comes inside the Bitcoin Success Circle now, With their membership, they get direct access to all that content, and they can basically do it in their own time. We have a private Signal group. Okay, Signal's a private messenger, encrypted messenger app, for those that don't know, a bit like WhatsApp, but it's encrypted, private, very, very lively. Every day I'm in the group, everybody's posting messages, questions, sharing different stages they're at on their journey, different things they're doing. Plus we have monthly get together on Zoom where it's basically a momentum session where we have general discussion, Q&A. Yeah, so it's pretty cool what we've done there, Sean. And really my goal for it is just to keep facilitating it and growing it. I mean, everybody who's there, they don't want to leave. So I think I'm probably stuck now, mate. I don't think I can say, well, that was nice. See you guys later. I think they're going to be part of a family.
I absolutely love it. And I want to jump in really quickly to CBDCs and digital IDs. But just before we do that, Finn, I believe you're already in the Success Circle as well.
Yeah, I'm helping Zane with a few things. So yeah.
And how are you finding that, like interacting, going through the chats, the private groups and stuff? Obviously don't disclose too much of what's in there, it's private sort of information, but what's the vibe and I guess the benefit to you being within that Success Circle?
I think it's early days, isn't it? Yeah. Didn't I just give you access a couple of days ago? You probably haven't had a chance to go through any of it yet.
Yeah, I filtered through a few bits, but the overlap that I see is it's very similar to the program and community that I got into when I first got into it. It's packaged completely differently. It's Bitcoin only. That's amazing because the course I did was take the cry out of crypto. But fundamentally, it's what people need. And I got lucky because I thought I was doing a crypto course to get rich quick, but it was actually teaching about the fundamentals, how to avoid getting hacked, rugged, scammed, how to protect your Bitcoin. But this is what people need. And like what Zane said, people are waking up to it, but there's still so many people that are already in the Bitcoin space that have no idea what they're doing or how to be safe. And like, without doxing them, I've got a family member that bought Bitcoin in 2015 or 2016, and they still don't know what they hold. And you can tell pretty easily. And the other thing that's ironic is they hold Bitcoin, leading to what we're going to talk about. They hold Bitcoin. They don't know what it is really, but they've held it. So fair play. Yeah, I'm still a conspiracy theorist whenever I talk about digital IDs and CBDCs. Yeah, he's held Bitcoin for for 10 years.
Wow, that's so crazy. And we're going to very shortly do a hard pivot into CBDCs, digital IDs. But also I want to just touch on the power law from a different way. Like, ladies and gentlemen, if it grinds your gears when you hear the word power law, chill, will probably be in your favor. But if your Bitcoin's still on the exchange and you need help, seriously reach out to the Bitcoin Way. The first 30 minutes is free. I believe they're the best in the world to mentor, to be able to train. They never touch your keys. They never touch your coins. But once you secure the Bitcoin, like, that's sort of like step one, is secure the money. Step two, lock down all your devices, your phones. And then step three is you can get a second passport, like a Plan B passport. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because I want to now hard pivot into CBDCs and digital IDs. And having a Plan B passport may be a bloody good idea coming soon. And another good trick is, this is the Microseed. There's a video coming out, full unboxing and stuff, but it's a 1-inch washer. You can fit all 12 or 24 words on the washer. A little bit easier to hide, a little bit easier to lose, don't take it boating. It's not going to float. They also have a nylon washer, body wave scanners, metal detectors, x-rays and stuff. It's going to pass through all of those, and the washer sort of looks like a coin. So use your imagination, but it's pretty incredible. There is a discount link below, and I have partnered with Robin and Daniel from Microseed. It's absolutely amazing. But full video coming out Monday with that. But Anyway, that's protecting your Bitcoin. I think that's most important. The Bitcoin way, Microseed, or just making sure your seed is on steel, not paper. Now, the reason I say all that before central bank digital currencies and digital IDs, these things terrify the shit out of me. Like, it's scary. I think once we get digital IDs, I think that's the beginning of the end. I don't think it's going to get tyrannical straight away, but I think once we get a digital ID, that leads on to a CBDC. Once we get a CBDC, they link that with the social credit score. Once all three things are in place, I believe anyone that doesn't have Bitcoin in self-custody, not the ETF, not the Bitcoin treasury companies, Bitcoin in self-custody, you're holding your seed, I think you're fucked. And I hope I'm wrong. And I hope it's going to be okay, but I don't believe so. We have seen the Bank of Thailand. They brought out digital ID. Some people didn't get it. I think it was like 36 million bank accounts closed down because people refused to do it. The government control these evil people, whoever it is at the top, the WEF, the IMF, just the Australian government, whatever country you live in, if they bring out a digital ID, I don't believe it's to save the kid. I don't think it's to be able to stop illegal immigrants from working or anything like that. I truly believe it's about controlling everyone's movements, their thoughts, because with this, the social credit score and the digital ID, if you say something on X, for example, that they don't like, that may still factually be correct in base reality, but it goes against their party narrative, then you provide misinformation, disinformation, propaganda, or whatever from their point of view. They can shut your bank account down. They can lock you out. They can stop you buying meat if you spend too much on carbon credits or something. You use too much gas in your ICE vehicle this week, you're not allowed to eat steak for the next 2 weeks or whatever. We're going to stop you on your planes, your trains, your buses and stuff. People like, that's so crazy. Like you're saying, Finn, like your family think that you are like too much of a conspiracy head or whatever, and you've gone too far down the rabbit hole. That's the way that I see it. And on one hand, I'm so grateful and blessed, and I know that myself, my friends, my family will be okay. And that extended community and everyone that's been stacking sats and put in self-custody, they'll be good. But I'm still freaking terrified for everyone else that doesn't have that opportunity, or they just literally don't have Bitcoin in self-custody and they haven't put the things in place to be able to prevent it. Before I hand it over to both of you, if I'm wrong, so what? Bitcoin's number go up technology. You get fabulously wealthy. It's amazing. Bitcoin will hit 1 million, then it'll hit 10 million, and we'll see where it goes after that. It's going up and to the right forever. But if I am right, it's still going to go up. You're going to have that life, but you're also going to have freedom as well. And I think the Bitcoiners are going to be some of the very, very few people that have true freedom or choice in their life. That's the way that I see it. And maybe it's a little bit dystopian. I feel okay with myself because I hold Bitcoin in self-custody, but I do worry about people that don't. Finn, I'll hand it over to you first, and we'll hand it over to Zane. And then I want to round out with the power law and how to approach it.
Yeah, I'm similar to you in all you've just said in what I think. Again, me and my partner are fine because of Bitcoin, but I often get pretty fearful for my close family that just won't pay attention at all. And there's so many people like my family that have grown up in that awkward position where, yes, life might have been a bit of a struggle, but nothing too strenuous. But they've never hit a pain point to look at anything else. Everything has kind of worked for what they need it to their level. So the first example, the first time I ever came across Tony from the Bitcoin Way was when he was telling his story about going to zero overnight. Yeah, I straight away sent it to my mum and dad. Both of them, they're separated. Both of them replied saying, yeah, but that's never going to happen in the UK.
My wife said the same thing.
Yeah, that's what terrifies me. Not even acknowledging that it could. And like you've said, hopefully it never happens. But the fact that it's happened, and then the more I've watched Tony, listened to him, he's like pretty convinced it is coming and quick to Australia, to the UK. And yeah, it's you go through waves with Bitcoin. You feel like I'm good, but then you go, oh, my family are not good, so I need to stack more Bitcoin. It's not even for me, it's for my family. But like you said, hopefully none of this comes to fruition. But if you just step back and have a look at what's going on, it looks like something along those lines is going to happen.
I agree. Before I throw over to you, Zane, Matthew Webb, shout out, but he's given you a shout out. As a member with my wife at Zane Circle, I can honestly say it's the best community you could be involved with. That's amazing. What a legend.
Matt and Bobby are from, they're from WA. Thanks, Matt. I really appreciate the shout out, mate. You guys you've just been awesome to have inside the community. Really appreciate everything you guys are doing and where you're going.
I'm going to hand over to you, but just for everyone, we're live like right now while we're filming it clearly. You may be watching the replay. By that time, Zane and Finn's contact details will be in the description. They're not there right this moment at 3:29 Australian Eastern Standard Time, but they'll be there 5 or 10 minutes after the show. So just check back if you'd like to connect. Zane, digital IDs, CBDCs.
Look, I think we all can feel it's coming, Sean. The question is,
I was hoping one of you guys was saying, no, Sean, you're absolutely crazy. I've been asking everyone, and they're like, yeah, you're right. Like, oh, no, I don't want to be.
We're all tarred with the same brush, mate, as Bitcoiners. Unfortunately, we're all wearing tinfoil hats. But the thing is, if you listen to, and I encouraged my circle community guys about 2 weeks ago, I think it was the series with Simon Dixon. I can't remember the exact name of it. It was the 2-part series. It was quite a lengthy interview that he did. Who was the gentleman that interviewed him, Sean? I think
was that Daniel Prince?
Yes, that's him. I'm sure it was him.
Yeah,
anyway,
it is, and I got Princey coming on soon.
Yeah, so Simon, he was essentially saying that the future, and not the distant future, the near future. Now, whether that's 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, but he essentially sees 3 groups of people. And Simon is, anybody's paid attention to Simon, he's, in my mind, he's in the top 5 intellects and educators in terms of Bitcoin. He's been around a long time in this space. Now, the thing is, he believes that we're going to come down to 3 groups of people. We're going to have the ultra wealthy, super wealthy, the untouchables, okay, whatever group that looks like. But let's say the top 5% globally, that control all the assets, the corporations, the wealth, all of that. The next group is going to be people who own Bitcoin, not in a treasury company, not as an ETF, but people who have Bitcoin in super secure self-custody, like Sean's showing you there with the Microseed, running a node, air-gapped hardware wallets, the right setup with yourself, all of that. That's going to be the next group. And then the third group is going to be a massive group. That's going to essentially be everyone else, right? Now, they may well be well off. Obviously, you're going to have your working class and people fully dependent on the government through UBI, which is essentially universal basic income, where the government supports you, but in exchange for that support, you've basically given up all of your freedoms and your rights. Okay, so any new measures they want to bring in, medically, socially, right, to do with your spending, anything like that, you are now in their hands, okay, tied to your social credit score and all that. But the group that I'm really intrigued about, Sean, is these people who are not in the top for 5%, but they're still super well off and even super wealthy, right? Who believe that everything's going to be fine, okay? What are you talking about that for? What are you talking about this for? That'll never happen here, like Finn was saying. That'll never happen in Australia. Oh, that happened in Lebanon. That happened in Cyprus. Oh, that'll never happen in Australia. If I had said to every one of you people listening to this right now, if I had have said to you that in December 2019, if we had been sitting there at the pub having a beer and I said to you, in less than 3 months from now, we are going to not be able to go to work, not be able to run our businesses. When we go to the supermarket, we're going to have to stand 6 feet apart and we're going to have to wear a nappy on our face. You would have thought I was a complete nutcase, right? Now, that wasn't that long ago. This was in December. I'm talking about December 2019. If I had said that to you, that in less than 3 months, that's what the world's going to look like. Not to mention that it went on for the best part of 2 years. And so anybody who says, oh, that'll never happen here, that is code for, I'm too fucking lazy to do any homework on what's going on in the world, right? Or to pay any attention. And so I worry about that group, Sean, the group that has done really well for themselves. They've got a lot of real estate, big short share portfolios, maybe a lot of superannuation, and they're sitting there thinking that none of this will apply to them. Whereas I think those people are at most risk because they got the most to lose. Those people are going to be sitting ducks for anything, any centralisation that comes in. I mean, we can see it already now. I meet with people all the time who are very, very well off in real estate. They've got vast rental property portfolios, property developers, right, who can see all the signs there, you know, the costs and everything associated, all the new regulations coming out, making it harder and harder and harder. And why are they paying attention to Bitcoin, right? Because they know that real estate is pushing the absolute limits now, and they know that it's jurisdictionally attached to a place that can be taxed into oblivion, right? And so if there's an opt-out for them to protect their capital, that they're going to learn about it, and that's why they're learning about Bitcoin. But I actually think, like I said, just to finish here, that those people who think that they are untouchable because they're worth 5, 10, 15, 20 million dollars, I think they've got the most to lose in this new world that we're heading into.
Yeah, I agree. And if that's any of you watching this far into your first Bitcoin video, the Big Print's a great place to start. Also a free call with Tony from the Bitcoin Way. I'll bring up something at the end, but I know, Zane, you need to be somewhere very shortly. So I just want to touch on this Bitcoin power law because I said I would at the start. Now, the power law, Giovanni was the person that brought it out. For full disclosure, Giovanni and I don't get along on personal reasons, but I have seen a lot of people try to push trading against the power law, whether it's the power law or the stock to flow or any Bitcoin model or whatever. The point is never trade your Bitcoin. Trade everything else for Bitcoin. If the power law helps you buy more Bitcoin or HODL your Bitcoin, fascinating, great, incredible. But yesterday when I was interviewing Fred Krueger, he starts off Bitcoin to 1 million, which is this book here with the power law. Chapter 1 is the power law. While I was talking to Fred Krueger about his book that starts with the power law, we were talking about the power law. I brought up Fred's website, which is b1m.io. It was exactly on the power law at the time that we were talking about the power law on the book that he wrote, starting off with the power law. So I thought that was a bit of a trip. And I've really railed against the power law in the past, especially when people push that it's trade, and if it's a little bit above, trade. If it's below, obviously it's a great time to be able to buy. We've just come below it as well. So for me, that's an indication to be able to buy more. But for anyone that feels like a little bit of fear that we've come down to 110,000, you can see like it's following this trend, and the power law, it is, you know, British HODL calls it a power opinion. I'm probably more on British HODL side, but it has, if you look back, it's been accurate. I believe 96% of the time with a R-squared value of 0.96 on it. And that's against gold, Bitcoin, gold, fiat, the S&P 500 as well. So it has held, but slowly and suddenly. Eventually, Bitcoin will break to the upside, in my opinion. But this puts us out at like 1.45 million in 2035. I think that's a little bit bearish. But you're going to see this floating around more and more. I'm guilty of posting it last couple of days as well. The reason why I post it is because when there's blood in the streets like there was earlier today, we've come back to even on the last 24 hours. To see that this trend line or whatever it's holding, it's just normal. If that helps people, it helps people in whatever way, ladies and gentlemen. You can get your conviction to be able to just buy, stack, and chill, hold on for the long term. When I first got into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, unfortunately, I had a journal that's over there. But in the top of it, I'd write down the fiat dollar of my coins, like the altcoins, fiat value of my Bitcoin. I grouped all those together in Bitcoin separately, and then the percentage up or down every day. And I did that for maybe at least 12 months, maybe nearly 18 months doing that up and down. And, you know, COVID 2020, in a matter of days, my net worth was down 50% in just a few days from that March dip. But I look back and I'd already seen, like in my short time in Bitcoin, I got in sort of towards the end of 2019, that we had other drawdowns and it kept sort of coming up and climbing out. And that allowed me to build my connection that I actually don't really like the green days anymore. I don't get excited about it. If it's a new all-time high or it's $100,000 on the dot, yes, that's cool. It's like, yes, I told you so moment. Everything's correct. My thesis correct. But I love the red days. I get excited about the red days. It's what wakes me up and makes me just want to jump into the day and stack more sats. Whatever way that anyone can get there, like find your own little tricks and stuff, but that's one. And all these models, I think if you use them not to trade, but just to remind you to hold on or it's fair value or whatever, I think that's fair. To be able to round out the show really quickly and then we'll get out of here. We've covered a lot. I've got gdaybitcoin.com. Everything that I've learned over the last 6 years now, man, time goes quick. I've tried to put up here, but, you know, there's endorsed by Lawrence Lepard is one of the kindest things that he's said to me is amazing. But if you need to be able to buy Bitcoin, either like DCA, Bitcoin Only Exchange, AmberApp or Stormrake, if you want to do a whole lot, and then you've got the Bitcoin Way, Microseed, links to the Bitcoin white paper. If you haven't read that, highly recommend it. The big print, become unforgettable. And if you're ever looking for something nice to do, I will bring it up. I don't have it in the menu, but there is a donation page to be able to give eyesight back to people in Indonesia, not affiliated. It's literally a button that takes you to their website, but it's a good way to be able to spend fiat to be able to change someone's life so they're not a burden. And I added that there because at the end of every video I say, please do something nice for yourself today and for somebody else. Be blessed. Peace. That's my outro. Gentlemen, I'm going to hand it over to you for yours.
Zane?
When you hold Bitcoin, the future is brighter.
Love it. And I'll bring Finn up full screen. All yours, buddy.
Zoom out, look at the price 10 years ago and look at the power law where it's going to be in 10 years and buy as much Bitcoin as you can. Not financial advice.
What is financial advice though is study the heck out of Bitcoin. Just keep reading all the books, watch the podcast. What's the problem? Shortest, greatest video on Bitcoin. Follow that up by the big print parallel. You'll be sweet. And just HODL means hold on for dear life. Just HODL and enjoy it and get used to the red days. We're going to see many, many more. And today's nothing in the scheme of things. It's be interesting when we get a big 20% drawdown to see how the market reacts from 200 down to 160. People are going to be crying, but, you know, we may have only been at 120 a couple of weeks before. So it's all in perspective.
Just one thing I want to add, Sean, before you go, when you were showing the power law thing and the chart, at the end of the day, I'm not sure about you guys, but I'm quite certain you'd feel the same about me. The more time we have to get our friends and loved ones on board this life raft, that's what we want. That's what we want. And if Bitcoin shoots up to 200,000, 300, 500, $1 million before people have had the time to get their head around what this is, you know, that's for me, this is a gift. This is an absolute gift. This chop solidation and whatever it's called, checkmate he talks about, you know, this is beautiful. This is what we want, right? So any of you guys out there who are just going, oh, this is boring or whatever, this is what we want. We know where it's going. just use this time to breathe, to learn, to grow, to connect, to keep stacking, and just help educate as many people as you can that are in your circle, and they'll thank you later.
Yeah, greatest place to be able to end it. I resonate with all of that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll link these two gentlemen in the description below. It'll be there about 5 minutes after we get out of here. But please just have a very blessed day, and well done for paying attention to Bitcoin. You, ladies and gentlemen, are the people that are going to change the world for the better. I thank you very dearly for that. Peace.